and welcome to the Outpost Frequencies, brought to you by thelastmovieoutpost.com for all of your movie news, reviews, and everything cool about films. I'm your host this evening, not George Lucas, and with me, as always, is Drunken Yoda.
So, for those of you wondering why you can't see George, it's because I've still got everything screwed up from last week, so I apologize for that. I will adjust. You keep talking, George.
People only come to see my pretty face.
I've also got half of Sean's face, so clearly we're doing well.
Right, so whilst Yoda fixes his technical issues, I'm glad I didn't have any of them this evening. I sorted mine out beforehand. And Sean, how you doing, mate?
I could be spring turkey hunting or watching anime VTubers, but instead I'm very excited to be talking about Star Trek or Wars, whatever. Again, this week I'm so I'm so excited.
I know. I to be honest, Yoda, it's going to be difficult keeping Sean quiet for more than 5 minutes so that we can get a word in edgeways because he just loves it.
It's his favorite discussion. Right there with skin and a deer. I don't know. It's a very weird dichotomy there, but you know.
So, people can see me now. Hello, everyone. I actually washed my hair. God, yeah. Anyway, right. So, for a change. First of all, let's just mention. Hey, Maddox is here. Yoda's news yesterday was brilliant. I've just got to say that. I'm going to say that on camera and live for posterity. It was very, very good. Well done, Yoda. Excellent effort.
Good job simping for the man. It was great.
I'll take all the sipping I could get, and there's that $20 in the mail coming.
It was it was very good. The Simple Sad was very, very good, and whatnot.
Schiller Sad.
Schiller Sad, that's right. Yeah. I did watch it.
Clearly.
I didn't hear it third hand from somebody.
Hey, well, right, judge it by the response. I mean, we've gotten the most views on that thing in this amount of time than anything in quite a while. I was kind of shocked. So it's the one I've done the least amount of effort on in some ways.
Well, there you go. If you try too hard, it's just not worth it.
That's right.
That's the rule of life is trying is the first step in failure. So don't ever really try.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Completely agree with that. So this evening we are talking about, Yoda, you said that there has been kind of a resurgence about the prequels. I don't know where you saw that because I haven't seen anything. But where did that come up?
I go down the YouTube channels. Part of it was the sad or shill piece.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot, how Twitter is. When you start showing some interest in something, they start pushing suggested, things into your feed. And I'm just seeing a lot of people talking about the prequels. Now, some of them are, clearly shills for the various different, sequels and Boba Fett and all that stuff, all the Disney stuff. Or they're throwing out the message. And it just all gets really old. But there's a lot of people that seem to be realistic. They don't seem to like the sequels, and they're talking about how they love the prequels. So then I saw this video this morning, actually, which I was like, wow, this just kind of bolsters my point. This guy did this whole video where he kind of dug into the Phantom Menace, and he noticed that there is a lot of themes of duality in it. And he's not sure where he's going with that. But if you look at it, it's like you start out with the midi-chlorians are cells that are symbionts with humans, with people, with living things. Then that's how we're able to do the Force. But then earlier in there, they use that same word where Obi-Wan is saying to Boss Nass in the Gungan City, you and the Naboo form a symbiont circle. You must understand that. Well, what happens to you happens to the other, right? And then he started looking deeper. He's like, wait a minute. Like, there's 2 Nemoidians. There's 2 Jedi. There's 2 queens, technically, because she has the decoy.
There's 2 Sith.
There's 2 Sith. There's 2 lightsaber blades.
Yeah.
And he needs 2 lightsaber blades, which shows that he's more prepared than that takes 2 Jedi to take him out, right? Always 2 there are. and he just started, falling into the pod races. The only way to win is have both engines running. All right.
I do think that some people have a little bit too much time on their hands and sort of over examine things, because I
resemble that remark.
I did sit down and watch The Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith this week, because I've taken the day off work on May 4th, because that to me is Star Wars Day, and that to me is watching the original trilogy.
You admit that in public to people?
Yes.
All right, I just wanted to be clear on that.
It's my wife's big operation on that day, but it's Star Wars Day, so it's her own tough luck.
Yeah, you got a mobile phone, you can sit in the waiting room, it's all good.
Yeah, exactly.
That reminds me of a quick story. My friend is so cheap that when his wife started to go into labor, he made her sit in the parking lot in the hospital until it became after midnight, so he wouldn't be charged for 2 days of her being in the hospital. That's a true story.
I understand where he's coming from.
Hey man, kids are expensive. You got to start saving immediately.
Well, it was his fourth one too, so by that
so he's learned.
He probably was like, you know what? Is there any way we could just? Can you think you could do this without the help of medical science?
There's a great line in The American Office when Pam's pregnant and she's trying to do exactly the same thing, get in after midnight, and they read these things saying about that to cause labour you have to eat spicy food, and so he says, what's the opposite of that? And Kevin says, put spicy food up her butt. That's not the opposite. Anyway,
yeah.
So yeah, I watched The Phantom Menace. I watched the prequels. Now, it's interesting what you were saying about this guy sort of picking to pieces, the sort of saying, that there's this hidden meaning in there and everything else. Because
he actually was like, I never saw this before. I don't even know if I have a conclusion. I just thought it was interesting.
What channel was that? It wasn't Rob Ager, was it?
No, there's a channel I watch, these two Aussies called Mr. Sunday Movies, and I started watching their podcast, but they've had a YouTube channel. They have an editor that kind of puts stuff to their audio. Yeah, and then he decided to do this video. This editor decided to do his own video on it. And I like these guys. I mean, they're kind of they just don't take anything seriously. They're just having fun with various, movies that come out. And it's
not like us then, because we take a lot of things very seriously.
Yes, clearly. But it just kind of, to me, like I've seen these little, talking about the prequels and a lot, this guy, he says, I saw this when I was a kid. Yeah. Maybe he was 10 or 11. Well, he'd be 30 now, at least. Yeah. So,
thanks for that.
Yeah. I was 30 when they came out.
Do you remember
the first one? And that was Star Wars.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah. Yeah. That was Gone with the Wind. So I'm just saying that all these kids that saw it back then, they have an appreciation that those of us Gen Xers who saw the original trilogy just do not have. And I don't think that the weaknesses of the prequels and the storytelling aspects are null and void. There's still a problem. They're a huge problem. The acting and the details. But I've always said that I think there was something there as far as an overarching idea that just failed in the execution. But the moments are there, the bits are there, and quite frankly, I think George was trying to tell an actual story, as opposed to the sequels, which are just corporate turds. That's all they are.
Absolutely.
There's nothing in those that require that. There's no overriding reason to tell those stories, other than to destroy the characters that you love and to say yay whammon. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It was absolutely nothing else but making money.
They were absolutely empty. I don't think that the further away I get from, I don't think the prequels are empty. I think they're badly done.
Badly done, but they're not. Yeah. There was some there was an earnest attempt behind that. It's not like the guy needed the money, for one thing. So it's not like George Lucas is like, I gotta crank these out. I'm so broke.
Well, the most fascinating thing about the prequels, and I still think it's better than watching them, but it's still a great little featurette is that in the beginning documentary, which has no dialogue, it's just edited together moments and conversations and behind the scenes all put together, and just it's almost like you remember the show Cops? There would be no narration or anything. You just watch what happens as it happens. That's kind of what that documentary is. I think you can even find it on YouTube, but if you can't, it's really well done, and it doesn't really shy away from some of the if I know you guys have probably watched Mr. Plinkett's Red Letter Media. There's a lot of scenes in there that come from that documentary. Like when you see Rick Berman in the back just looking shocked, like, oh God, what the hell have I hitched my wagon to here? And I mean, it's all very genuine. So even if the prequels themselves aren't that good, I kind of appreciate them just for those documentaries because they're really good. And each one of those, I don't think anyone was quite as good as the first one, but each one of those movies has that.
It is funny because there are two particular things. There's one documentary, I don't remember where it was on. I'm sure it was on one of the DVDs or one of the Blu-rays. But it was fascinating watching the process. And there's two particular bits that stuck out to me. One of them also was a deleted scene from The Phantom Menace where I think it was a young Greedo is picking on Anakin. Mm-hmm. And they're having a fight, and Qui-Gon breaks it up, and he says, "What's going on?" He says, "Oh, he called me a liar." And he said, "Well, are you?" And he said, "No." And he goes, "Well, then you must simply tolerate his point of view." And I think it's a brilliant line. It's kind of a line that's actually really stuck with me, and it was such a shame it was cut out because I just thought, the whole thing about young Greedo was just like completely tying it in. But I think it was just such a good line. If it had been
somebody else, it would have made more sense. Just leave Greedo out of it, because that's the thing. They have a good line in it, but the only thing they were concerned about by filming that, it's like, because I believe another Rhodian, a little kid Rhodian, says, "You're going to come to a bad end one day, Greedo." And
it was Warwick Davis.
We know what that means.
And so the main problem with them is I think the storytelling is atrocious in the first two, particularly the second one. I think is terrible. It's interesting. I haven't seen the Mr. Plunkett's review for an awfully long time, but it's interesting to hear him say about stuff. And like, he doesn't even mention Jar Jar. And everybody was like, "Oh, Jar Jar was crap and Jar Jar was awful." And it was like, he doesn't even mention how badly done Jar Jar was. He just takes apart the story. And ultimately, again, this was in a documentary that I saw. I swear I saw it, that George Lucas was looking at all the kind of figures that they were making, and these guys had come up with these 3D models for what the creatures are going to look like. And I'm sure he was looking at like Watto, and he was talking to somebody, and George Lucas makes this flippant comment going, "Oh, I should probably get right in it then."
Yeah.
And that to me is the entire problem with the thing, is that it's always about the story. You can have the cheapest, awfulest movie, but if you've got a decent story, you're set, you're fine.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. I don't know the circumstances of him making a flippant comment in the middle of that. Like, was he absolutely serious on that, or did he have pretty much the entire outline and he needed to get in and fill in some of the extra dialogue and stuff, or or was it just blank pages? Because I know I've seen him in 1994 starting in that same thing. He's starting the writing process. He goes, "Okay, episode 1, he's starting the process." So I'm kind of like, people point to that. See, I just get worried about.
I will come back to you and say that there was a comment by Rick McCallum, the producer, who I think is the main reason for the failure of the prequels. But I remember him talking about Attack of the Clones. He's kind of like the main, the what do they call it? Most valuable player type of person in that thing. He said about Attack of the Clones, I remember him saying it was something along the lines of the script was so flexible that we could take it kind of in any direction. And again, I'm thinking, seriously, what do you mean the script was really flexible? If you can sort of just change the script at any moment, what kind of a story is that's going on in there? And that's what I always. So when that George made that flippant comment, I actually do think to myself, like I say, I know he did sort of start it, but I mean the writing, when you think he wrote Star Wars over a period of X amount of years, however many it was. I know it was kind of, he didn't just sit down and pen it. He obviously completely ripped it off from Akira Kurosawa, but he wrote it and did it in detail and everything else. And then when he did Empire, they got Lawrence Kasdan in to sort of tidy up the script and everything else. And then that made kind of a lot of sense. What I think the problem was is George wrote this script in however long, maybe a few months, maybe a few years, I don't know. But he put it down on the table and Rick McCallum said, "Yep, this is good. We'll film this." And
why do you think that was, though? Why do you think that people? I mean, you know, one of the things that Plinkett says, and I rewatched it, and I could see it too, is that, when he did the original trilogy, he was just some dude from Modesto that had like one film, and everybody kind of knew him, and they were all on the same level as him. 20 years later, now you have Star Wars, this almost mythical thing, right? And so when George Lucas comes in, everybody kind of regards him like the Pope walking in. They're all frightened and scared. And I don't think McCallum was really any different when it comes to that, to be honest.
That's exactly the problem. That instead of Rick McCallum reading the script and going, "George, mate, we've got a good basis here, but we just need to tidy some things up and, do some bits and pieces and maybe get somebody else in." He just read it and said, "Yeah, this will do." And it was just kind of like,
nobody would push back, is what you're really saying, and not just McCallum. Ben Burt, he's on his level. I mean, or John Williams, or even Steven Spielberg. Any one of those guys could have pushed back on him a little bit more. McCallum probably, he's a guy that comes in after the fact, right? But that group that was there with him, Dennis Muren and all these guys that worked with him for so long. And I think there was even who was the guy that produced the original Star Wars? He always had
Gary Kurtz.
Gary Kurtz. He always he actually said, "I think the problem is there's a lot of people who don't want to say no to George anymore."
I always assume that's what happened to him. Is that he just everybody's like, "Well, he knows he's the guy that invented it. He knows what he's doing. Who are we to, that's what I always assume happened.
And nobody remembers that, Irvin Kershner made Empire. And quite frankly, look, Star Wars is fantastic. The original Star Wars is a fantastic movie. I have absolutely no issues with it, but it could have been a one and done. It could have easily been a one and done. Empire was the movie that made Star Wars and deepened it and brought in the lore.
Oh, yeah.
And made it something much more than what it was before. It was a fun adventure Flash Gordon movie on the first one. The second one brought in the emotion, the philosophy, all that kind of stuff. That anybody that says I love the original trilogy, you're really saying I love Empire. In my opinion,
I always class them together. Always.
I do too. But if Empire doesn't work as well as it does, and it works heads and shoulders above both the other two, and quite frankly, now the original Star Wars is a 4-star, full stop, 100% movie. It's just that Empire is a 5 out of 4. Now Jedi is about a 3.5, and mostly because the Leia and Han's arcs are done, and there's just not much for them to do, but. Luke's arc is finished brilliantly. It's finished at a 10 out of 10. So, I mean, that movie works because Luke's arc is so well done and finishes very satisfactorily. So then you get to the prequels, and I think you go, okay, so he comes in and everybody's like scared of him. You got young people in there now. You got all these ILM guys that, they were kids when they saw Star Wars, so now they're in their 30s, right? And to them, Lucas is a god. When I was 30 at that time, as far as I was concerned, Lucas was a god. I mean, really, you look back when Episode 1 came out. I don't know if this was like you. Some people said they hated it immediately. I had to talk myself into hating it, or I had to talk myself out of loving it, I guess would be the better.
I
knew something was wrong, but I was like, it's Star Wars. It's got to be good, right? It's got to be.
I
had to go through a
seeing it
process.
I saw it 9 times in the cinema.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to love it so much. And I remember defending it to the death. People saying, oh, this is bad and that's bad. And I'm going, no, you don't understand and blah, blah, blah. And I remember doing that. but I
was the same way, man.
I was desperate to just be in love with a Star Wars film. You know, it was a new Star Wars film. I remember I had an old dial-up modem, and so when the trailer came out, I kind of watched on Real Player, as how old, so long ago it was, this kind of, you know, pixelated picture which had great sound but no images, and I think I remembered like downloading for 6 hours to get like the largest version available just so I could see it. And I remember that feeling and excitement and everything else. And so when I went to see it, I was like, no, it's the greatest film ever, best film ever, better than the others, Empire, load of crap, this is so much better. Only now
this was the beginning of the this was the beginning of the member berries.
Yeah,
people don't realize but it's the beginning of the member berries. That went on through 2005, right? 2006, Superman Returns came out, trying to capitalize on that stuff in the 80s. Then 2008, you have Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, right? And they started making this, and then Tron in 2010, and it just kept going, get worse. And then Star Wars wrapped around again in 2015. And that's, you know, but it was the Phantom Menace that really kicked off this nostalgia porn in some ways.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, because nothing else really at that time was a.
They were still trying new shit, right?
Yeah.
They still kind of had like the, you know, you had Halloween's, which was sort of chill churning out and Freddy 5 or whatever.
They did do H2O in '99.
No, but what I'm saying is,
I don't think it's not. That's just like continuing a thing, like, you know, a soap opera.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is that the Phantom Menace was kind of a.
I don't think that the Halloween movies were trying to. Hey, remember 1979? I didn't.
What? No. What about? What,
they still
okay,
do.
So they were churning out stuff up through like '95, right? And then they took a hiatus, and then they had, with big fanfare, you know, because a lot of us had kind of tapped out of Halloween after Halloween 2. So you're talking 1980. Now, Halloween 1998 or 1998, H2O, right? And they're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis, right? Tell me that isn't a member, and they rebooted it. They all the continuity beforehand.
It doesn't feel like that to me, though.
I think it's a prototype of that.
Yeah, that's probably true. It was definitely the first to put the toes in the water of that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like the raw.
But we weren't inundated by this stuff yet. It was just starting to come out, and it was just like we were hopeful and optimistic that we could have new versions of these things that we loved. And it took me until Mr. Plinkett's, like, I knew I didn't like it, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. And I would be like everybody else and say Jar Jar. You mentioned this earlier, that the Plinkett reviews say he doesn't mention Jar Jar in the Plinkett review, but he brought it all home. And I think the reason why people focus in on Jar Jar as their ire, the reason why they hate it. The truth is, I mean, yes, Jar Jar is an annoying character, but he's also the most relatable character in the entire goddamn prequels. You know what he wants. You know why he wants it. He just is annoying as fuck, and that's an easy thing to latch onto. The other stuff is a lot more nebulous, and he gets into those details of why these prequels are bad. But it's all, you know, you can't just explain it in 1 or 2 sentences. But you can explain Jar Jar in 2 words.
What did you guys think about when he put that little Jar Jar line at the end of the redid Return of the Jedi there at the end, where he's like, "Oh, we're free" or whatever? So many people got so angry at that. It's like, "Oh yeah, here you're gonna take more, whether you like it." Or, I always thought that was sort of he put
Naboo in where there was Gungan, and there's one Gungan way off on a route going, "We so free." I don't know. I just, that was so, like, the redo editions have been raped long ago with the Han shot first. So by then you're just a battered housewife.
See, I still cannot. Oh dear, I cannot get over my utter disappointment. George Lucas is you know, he created something which very few other people have done. They created an entire universe which is beyond, you know, any other movie. No other movie has got its own day. You know, May the 4th is Star Wars Day. No other movie has got that. You know, he created this. And yet the whole thing with like Greedo and Han shot first and stuff, I still cannot get into my head how he thought that was a good idea. That 2 people sat opposite a table and the guy cannot...
It should have been a warning flag when the prequels start. When the prequels go, It should have been a big uh-oh. It's like, oh boy, what's going to happen?
And it's kind of weird that, I mean,
hey, Aggie.
again, it's oh man, hey Eggs. It's weird how you kind of like, you know, when Empire Strikes Back came out, right? Every kid who was growing up watching that tried to pick up the remote control using the Force. All right,
I did.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did.
Don't give me that.
I still try to pick up this thing with the Force every once in a while. I'm not gonna lie.
But you did. And then what I don't understand then is how George Lucas completely changed everything about the Force, like introducing the midi-chlorians and stuff. How it's just like a chemical, you know, it's these beings that live inside of you, and if you haven't got them, you haven't got the Force.
It's like when you catch when you get hookworms.
Exactly.
Or your dog's got worms.
I mean,
it took away that magic of what the Force was.
I'm going to take devil's advocate for this just slightly.
Okay,
I don't really like it either, but they kept saying in Return of the Jedi, the Force runs strong in your family, which means it was bloodlines, which means it's got to be something biological.
Yeah, but just making it like scientific.
Kind of set up. I agree. You don't need to explain it anywhere past that. I do agree. But I mean, it's not like it's
I think a lot of people like
unprecedented.
People like the idea of the more mystical aspect to it, obviously.
Yeah.
I do too. I'm just saying that everybody got so angry. It's like, well, I was like, they kept saying that in the original trilogy. I'm like, why you guys? I was like, we don't really need that. But I was not religiously angry about it like so many other people were.
It just took away that, like Sean just said, it took away that mystery and that magic.
It's the same
fact
thing.
That you could have the Force.
It's the same thing that happened in Alien Prometheus and Covenant. They explain where the xenomorph come from. One of the biggest mistakes in cinema mythology ever. Everybody wanted to know where the alien come in, but not really.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You've got your own theories. You've got your own beliefs of where it came from and that kind of thing.
I think where George should have worked harder on it, and then this line would have made more sense to me as a setup, is that. And I think it's kind of happened, and they actually addressed it in Last Jedi. Heaven forbid I use that movie as a reference. But the idea is that the Jedi were, if not corrupt, certainly ineffectual and easily misled because of the Sith or whatever. They become too full of themselves, whatever. I think they should have leaned into that more. And part of the reason was because the Jedi, like, there's that lady in episode 2, the librarian, who says, if it's not in our library, it doesn't exist. You know, a lot of arrogance going on with the Jedi. And they mention that here and there, and they should have leaned into that more. And maybe they would have said, wait a minute. We've been thinking it's all about midi-chlorians. We don't know shit about the Force. And that's why they fell. If they had done that, I probably could have put up with it more.
Again, you make such a good point with that the bits that got me is the fact that there was a Sith Lord who was governing the galaxy, and they were sort of like, who is this Sith Lord? I don't know, and everything else. And then also the fact
next to him. Do you sense anything? Nothing.
Why does he keep cackling? I don't know. Good. But not only that, but also the fact that when Anakin and Padme got married and she got pregnant. And again, it's kind of like, you guys didn't know that? I mean, seriously? You know, it's like, how stupid are you?
But that could have been a story point. Like, the Jedi weren't as powerful as they should have been. They have either misused or they have gotten so dogmatic about what the Force is. And, you know, like, why can't Jedi marry? Why? I mean, there is a point to be made, and this is where I think the ineptness of the prequels comes in. There is a point to be made that this idea of no attachments is what led to their destruction, because there are all these weird monks with no emotions that can't love. And
look at Christianity. You put all these guys together. Look what happens.
The nuncery starts. The pedos.
Jedis are nothing but incels with laser swords.
Well, you know, you're not, and so are the fans.
Yeah.
Hey-o.
Hey.
There's a bunch of guys out there going. But I mean, seriously, it's like all of that could have been better tied in. And then you have this one guy who I think he was trying to do a Citizen Kane, that had all these high ideals of making the Jedi better, making the galaxy better, and just, fell to his own hubris and all that kind of stuff. Again, execution was just a mess.
Have you guys ever heard of a YouTube channel called Belated Media?
No.
I'm surprised you haven't heard of this guy, because several years ago he did where he rewrote the prequels, and he gave his. He used editing, and then later on he did some, like animated work, and he gives his version of those stories, and he got 3 million views or something. But if you watch those, and you guys will like them, it's you'd go, man, this dude should have been the one that wrote them. It's real good. It's called Belated Media. He's not very active. He never really was like a weekly upload or anything, but those videos are very big, and especially his rewrite of the first one, especially, and but man, he ties it up. You're gonna watch it and go, man, this guy should have made those. Should have been the one.
See, this is coming back to my point from earlier, that this is what I think. That I know it sounds stupid, but I don't think George Lucas should have written the prequels. I mean, fine, have a hand in it, but when you think of, like, say for example, The Mandalorian, how Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni obviously know Star Wars and understand Star Wars, and George Lucas has been a consultant on that show, but they get it, and they kind of put together this show that really worked and understood what the fans wanted and the lore and everything else. Where I think George Lucas, I know it sounds stupid, but like I say, this is just one aspect of it, but the whole thing with the midi-chlorians and stuff kind of took so much away from what he had given us, and I just kept thinking, it doesn't. I don't understand.
Let's look at the entire framework of the prequels. The idea is that you've got this Sith Lord who's so powerful, working with an apprentice to set up a civil war, and then his apprentice is working the one side, he's working the Republic side, and he uses this civil war to grab power and eventually become the ruler of the galaxy. And in the meantime, he has his eye on this Jedi who is very idealistic, and he knows that he can corrupt him because this idealistic Jedi wants to make the world a better place. And it's not going to be too hard to turn him to the dark side under the guise of trying to make the world a better place. Great framework. I'm fine with that. Yeah. That's George. Yeah. That's where George says, here's what I'm saying, make that work. And that's when he hands it off to Kasdan or Jon Favreau or somebody like that. I think he's a great idea, man. I mean, he basically came up with most of Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. He just didn't write it. He had Spielberg direct it. He just came with the basic framework. You got an archaeologist. He's a really roguish kind of guy, leather jacket, hat, and he goes and he finds religious artifacts that turned out to be real. Boom, done. Take it, Stephen. And Stephen takes it from there. And that's where I think, and also technically, Lucas is a really good technical filmmaker as far as producing and special. And I'm gonna say something. If you want to take all the prequels in aggregate, and I mean, I'm taking not just writing and whether they're entertaining, but take all the technical pieces of it. Phantom Menace might be the best because it actually has real freaking sets. And
no, I got to disagree with you here because I remember, again, I think it was Rick McCallum who said it, but they reckon 95% of Phantom Menace was CG.
There is a ton of CG, but they used extension.
That's a lot of CG.
But they used real sets as extension. It wasn't just blue screen and nothing else. They barely had any walled sets, or they didn't use the extension. Like, there's a scene where you see the ship flying off, the silver ship flying off from the Naboo, and there's a waterfall behind it. That waterfall is salt. It's not CG. It's just salt running out of a thing. Yeah, they composite it. I mean, when you say it's CG, what do they mean? They may mean computer compositing. It was filmed on real film, and it's not filmed on digital, which those early days of digital is it's not good. It's too crisp. It's too clean.
Yeah, that's what I find with it.
Yeah,
looks,
but the first one I think is not the best as far as story, although I think it's the second best maybe It's
again,
or the
it's
second
weird because
worst.
I watched the version I watched this week. I can't remember where I got it from now. It was from somewhere online, but they fixed Yoda because Yoda was a puppet in the first one.
He was, and they replaced him several. I think when the Blu-rays came out, they'd replaced him with CG, maybe with the DVD. I'm not sure.
I mean, I have got the Blu-ray somewhere, but I mean, just I'm not going down that road again. He
matches the rest of the trilogy better, and to be honest with you, that puppet did look a little. I mean, there was some cocaine going on with Yoda.
Yeah, it was not good. It was not a good
Fear
look.
you, I do.
And so they like. Well, what was the point? Going off again now? You got me completely off the point now.
I'm just saying that Yoda. From a technical standpoint, I
see. Yeah.
I think because you can see they're filming in a desert, they're filming actual sets, they're walking up actual steps. The columns were built, not all of it, obviously, just enough for them to take from there and build the rest of it in CG. But they were working with each other. They weren't, just standing at a green screen. You don't have all those. Because like when they went to digital, and Plinkett made a huge point of this in the Return of the Sith review, Revenge of the Sith review, is that all they do is they're walking, they do a 2-shot, and then they go over and they sit on a couch, and occasionally somebody will get up, walk, look out a window, and then turn. And that happens all the time in those last 2 movies. But in the Phantom Menace, they actually interact with each other, sitting at a table, they're doing different things, they're at a junk shop. They're interacting with sets, and they're interacting with props, and they're outside. I don't know. I just feel like if you look,
I was going to come back to the whole point of the old somebody is in angst, so have them look out of a window, because like you say, that just happens so many times. It happens
all the time. They only have like 20 yards of runway to do a scene. So they can't walk fast, or if they have to show running. Like there's one scene where Anakin is like, he's got to get to the Emperor, and he's running at full speed.
Running and walking.
And then he just stops. He just starts walking kind of briskly because they've run out of room, I guess. I don't know.
Okay, so another thing that we can talk about is Lucas's writing of the love scenes between Anakin and Padme.
Oh, best part of the movie, man.
Because it was described as Titanic in space, and I think most people sort of thought yes, this is Titanic in space because it's just hit an iceberg and sunk.
There's more chemistry when the pizza guy comes over to the scantily clad woman in porn.
The whole thing is just it. What gets me is again his writing with particularly Anakin is the fact that Anakin, when he's around Padme, is constantly moaning about Obi-Wan. He's constantly moaning that I'm all the time. I just keep thinking, why would Padme fall in love with this loser? All he does is go on saying, I should be a really good Jedi, and I'm not, and Obi-Wan's holding me back. And I'm thinking,
you should love me. Love me.
Yeah,
I can tell you from experience that doesn't work.
It's
it will get you a restraining order, but that's about it.
Exactly, and it's like I say, it's so weak, the writing, and I just sort of thought, I wonder what kind of. I mean, I'm not having to go at George with his wife and everything else, but I kind of wonder what the relationship they had. Of they must have literally just sort of met and sort of said, "Oh, I like you too. Let's get married." And oh, that's what love is. And it's kind of because that's kind of how badly the love scenes were written between the two of them.
He divorced Marsha Lucas, I think, in '84, which I love how he talks about it, because that's when he did Temple of Doom. I think they divorced in 82 or 83, but he was working on Temple of Doom, and it's like, I wrote that. I was in a really bad mood for my divorce. I'm like, there's a scene in Temple of Doom where a guy actually reaches into a man's chest and yanks out his still beating heart. I
believe Spielberg was getting divorced at the same time too. So
there's a lot of bitterness in there. And then the only woman they have in there is written like a horrible shrew, a shrieking, terrible,
very realistic. What you're saying is she's very realistic, very believable woman.
I think they were working through some stuff. But yeah, you're right. It's Harrison Ford famously said on even the original Star Wars, which, let's face it, those three leads have such good chemistry that the leads in the prequels do not.
The comment. He said, perhaps she loves Anakin because his robot arm transforms into a vibrator.
Seems like you could get a droid for that and just, not have the whininess.
No. It's not that. It's just the fact that his lightsaber, it just doubles up as one end is a lightsaber, the other end.
Don't mix them up. It just comes out
another
the top
prostitute.
I'm saying that anything's a dildo if you're brave enough.
I don't want to know anything more about your love life, Sean.
That's I just read that on
no
the
more story. Yeah, sure you have. The point I was making before I was rudely interrupted by you sick freaks.
You love it.
It's not the point. The Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill had fantastic chemistry. They cast those leads together based on their chemistry because they'd switched in and out various actors until they found the right combination. That didn't happen on the new one.
How is Carrie Fisher doing nowadays anyway? It seems like we haven't heard anything from her or any news about what's going on with her.
For some of us, that's still too soon.
She's into gardening.
Oh.
Lots of daisies, I think. So Harrison Ford finally, because the original Star Wars, some of the lines in it are silly. They just work because these three actors made them work, and nobody can make them work in the prequels. But finally, Harrison Ford says, "George, you can write this shit, you just can't say it."
Can't say it, yeah.
Just an exasperation. And, at the time, nobody knew what Star Wars was going to be, so they were all making fun of him.
Even what's it called? Alec Guinness didn't really know what was sort of going on with the movie or anything, did it? It was kind of this space adventure. Oh, yeah, fine, I suppose. Is the check cleared? Yeah, I'll do it then.
Yeah, he needed the money. He was grateful to Lucas because he was able to settle up some debts and really it set him up for his retirement, for the rest of his life.
Who I always wish they would have cast as Obi-Wan in that instead of Alec Guinness is the dude that played Merlin in Excalibur. Borman's, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he would have been all right.
That would, especially if he'd acted the same. If he'd basically played the Merlin role, but as imagine how great that would be.
Psycho Obi-Wan, that would have been great. He was set up. Have you ever heard the story where Alec Guinness, this is back in the 80s, and some kid, ran up, asked for his autograph, and said that he had seen Star Wars 180 times, some ridiculous number, and Guinness just goes off on the kid and tells him he's wasting his life, and it just really until the kid cried, and I'm going, God damn, this is one of the people that gave you this money. Why don't you just cut him some slack, would you?
How awful is that to sort of in years to come sort of oh man, I love Star Wars. Yeah, I met Mark Hamill once. Really, I met Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
I'm still scarred.
Yeah. That's how you get syndrome in The Incredibles. You want more syndrome? That's how you get syndrome.
God, that's a good movie. That's a better movie than Star Wars.
Thank you for playing.
It's true. I've seen it more.
So you're not a shill. You're just sad.
I've got Incredibles on Blu-ray. I don't own a copy of any Star Wars movie, and I've never even seen The Phantom Menace all the way through. So I think I'm right.
I do love Incredibles. I think it's great.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying that, but they're two different things.
I never.
Are they, George? Are they?
Yeah. No, but you can't. You can't sort of say one's better than the other.
I was just messing with you. It's a great movie though.
I never not laugh at what's the guy's name? Craig.
Craig T. Nelson.
Craig T. Nelson. I never not laugh when he at the very beginning when he's chasing after the crooks. He has to get the cat out of the tree, and he shakes the cat off the tree, squeakers.
Yeah.
And then he puts the tree back, and he finally has to leave. He goes, "Okay, I'm out of here, men, ma'am." Squeakers.
Yeah.
just dripping with bitterness, and irritation at the cat. And he just, it's just a great delivery of that line. I don't know why it makes me laugh every time.
When his back's hurt and the robot's pulling on him and it cracks it, he's like, that's so funny to me.
For me, I don't know why, I always love the bit when Flash is running and, he's running as fast as he can and he gets to the water and then he starts running on the water and he just sort of goes, hee.
Yeah,
like,
that laugh
oh, wow,
is
I
great.
can run so fast. I can run on water.
That laugh, if you have an audio version of a dictionary, that would be under delight.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. Anyway, back to Star Wars. Before we get too off
we're
the cuff.
trying to talk about the prequels and why they might be okay, and it's just tough, isn't it?
It is. I mean, the whole opening of Attack of the Clones, there's all of that. None of that sequence makes any sense. I always hated the fact that.
Wait a minute. Remind me what is the opening? Remind me. It's been very long.
The opening bit is when the ship lands and it blows up, and somebody's trying to assassinate the senator, or Padme, and completely fails to blow up the ship at the right time, even though they were obviously watching it. And then Jango Fett, who I'm going to say is the worst bounty hunter, he's even worse than Greedo in the special edition, he sort of says, "Oh, our client is getting very angry, so we need to get this sorted out." And I kept thinking, no offense, Jango, but shouldn't you be doing it yourself then, if that's the case? And then he gives her those two centipede things, which are poisonous. And so this thing flies up to our window, cuts a hole in it, and drops these centipede things. And you're thinking, right, if that thing can, go up to a window and carve a hole in it, throw in a thermal detonator. Even a laser blast would kill her.
Yeah.
But instead it had to be these laser things. And then
that's I mean, you blew up. I mean, not to interrupt you here, George, but you blew up a ship.
Yeah.
So you're obviously not worried about being covert at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah, the accident. Make it look like an accident's out the window by that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then I think that's just George Lucas saying, "I saw Dr. No, I love the spider thing. I wanted to do that."
Yeah.
But then Obi-Wan jumps out the window, and then Zam has got this laser rifle, whatever it is. But she shoots the droid he's on as opposed to killing Obi-Wan.
Yeah, right to the head.
And then that whole chase sequence just makes no sense. That the Jedi in the previous film couldn't pick up on kind of all these bad guys. Or what's his name? The Sidious taking over the galaxy and stuff, and yet Anakin sort of hovers this taxi and then jumps out of it and lands on Sam's ship. And again, it's just kind of, huh?
Maybe the Sith know how to mask themselves better because they have the Force and they have the. It's like noise canceling headphones.
But then coming back to Jango, they cut Sam's arm off and then take her outside. Jango has literally got a rocket on his back.
Oh yeah.
And there's two Jedi and his accomplice down there. Rocket. No, I'm going to shoot them. Not with a laser blast, but with a dart, which has got items on it, which can lead back to where it came from.
Fuck that. He got the Jedi led away from Padme. Now fly over there, use that rocket, blow up Padme. Done.
Yeah. And
don't you start feeling like Scott Evil at some point? Look, I got a gun. Bam. Done.
It was just that whole sequence was just and then also the fact that the Jedi archives are the most comprehensive accumulation of information and knowledge that anybody has ever seen, and yet it's basically Obi-Wan's mate down the pub who knows where the dart comes from. His old friend Max, who works in a cafe, and he's just sort of like, "Hi, buddy, do you know where this is from?" Because
I want a 50s diner in my Star Wars. Yeah. Just like what I grew up with.
I've got my hands on every piece of knowledge in the known universe, but oh, brilliant, right? Yeah, if we can sort that out.
That's right. And what do they lose? Do they lose some bit of accounting from 3,000 years ago that maybe somebody? No, they lost a fucking planet.
Yeah, that's right. Well, apparently it could have been erased from the archives. Is the explanation to that, but it's still
that is the only scene. Not what happened in the scene, but that is the only scene that I mildly enjoy in Attack of the Clones, because Yoda wasn't being grumpy Yoda for 5 seconds.
Yeah, he was actually entertaining.
He was actually entertaining and making some jokes, and it's like, that was fun.
Yeah.
And then there's the rest of the movie, and you just want to kill yourself.
Yeah. And just
I've decided I love you deeply, truly, wonderfully.
I
Since
love
we're going
you.
to die in 5 seconds, I figured just know I could get out of this really easy.
I love you as much as I hate sand. And again, that whole execution bit. I mean, it was just kind of what was going on. Obviously, these things are getting.
I was always hoping at the end, it's like, we got out of that one. So you love me, huh? I was just trying to make you feel better because I thought we were going to die.
I was just hoping for one last quickie before I went. That's all it was.
But she was too much of a wuss. Now she's getting married to this guy, this whitey guy. You can see her there. Going, oh shit! What have I done?
Can't back out of it now.
Just off a side point of that, I always love. I think it was in Family Guy at the end of they did at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark when all these things are coming out, and Indy's going to Karen Allen, make sure you keep your eyes shut. Make sure you keep your eyes shut like this. And she says, by the way, I'm pregnant. Well, you can open one eye. It's brilliant. But yeah, again, like I say, these to describe
it's all
Titanic
the details,
in space,
though, right? It's all the details.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, you've got the Separatists being run by Count Dooku, who is a Sith Lord working hand in hand with Palpatine, Darth Sidious, to put. And I kind of like the idea of things like the banking clan and the guild, that because there was like a brief mention of that in Empire, where Han asks, or maybe it was Leia, I don't know, asked Lando, so you're not part of the mining guild? So no, we're an independent contractor. So kind of flesh that out. The idea that these guilds and these confederations, I don't mind that so much, and I even don't mind the politics of it, maybe because I'm an old fart, thinks that's interesting. But the politics of it, I don't mind so much if it was done right. Like, this would be a better time. It wouldn't be it wouldn't look so shitty like it would, because an Empire would look shitty. If there's one thing I loved about the Bad Batch, is that at the end it was like it takes place like right after the fall of the Republic, like 5 seconds after Revenge of the Sith, and immediately the Empire begins cost-cutting measures, so they get rid of the clones that actually work for conscription of people that turn into stormtroopers that can't hit the ground with a can of paint. So
what happened to all the clones then?
They just got rid of them.
What do you mean got rid of them? They killed them, or they just told them to go home? Oh.
They either...
And they're all working in McDonald's.
Weren't they like slave workers anyway? I mean, didn't they have no choice?
I think they put them to work in some slave stuff, or they killed them. Some of them got away, got their chip out. Some of them continued, but they're all just being... They're all being put back because, first of all, they have
they're being let go.
Yeah,
downsized.
Downsized.
We fixed the glitch. They put it. I think they just put them in menial tasks or that kind of thing, because most of them have shortened lifespans anyway, so they're just
accelerated growth, I suppose.
Yeah. So I think they're just letting them run out the clock, but.
That's one of the things.
They destroy Camino. They actually blow up Camino. They get rid of it. They get rid of all of them, and they just say, well, "No more clones. We're not paying for this shit anymore. We'll just take what we want." Now
you say about them down. Oh no, I was going to say you say about them downsizing. That always got me about in the Phantom Menace and in the Force Awakens. Sorry, how Finn was apparently on sanitation. But when we first meet him, he's then on the death squad for Kylo Ren.
It was his first mission.
That's why he
pooped his pants so badly in it.
I just love the sort of thing of, well, Finn, congratulations on cleaning those toilets. You've done an excellent job. We're promoting you to the murdered death squad.
Hey, even though you're barely fit to clean toilets, we're making you part of Delta Force. Here's your first mission to kill Bin Laden.
Well, they just went in and murdered a village, and I guess if you think about it, it's a type of sanitation.
That's true, you racist. Disavow.
It was, again, it's just like you say, the devil's in the detail with these things, and a lot of the details just didn't make any sense. The fact that I can't remember where I heard it now, but I mean, Obi-Wan was saying about, think and plan ahead and everything else. Then he immediately goes and jumps out of a window with no idea what's out there or anything else. Yeah, that's really thinking things through, Obi-Wan. Well done. Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's bad advice, even if he can't take it.
Well, I mean, you can fix that in 5 seconds. Have Anakin jump out the window.
Yeah.
All you have to do is have Anakin jump out the window.
Yeah.
And then Obi-Wan gets land speeder. Then he catches Anakin, and they're right back to where they started. But from a character perspective, it makes more sense. Right? Because Anakin is the young hothead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that, like you say, yeah. But then, of course, he was, he's just seen Padme in her nightwear, so maybe he just wanted to stick around for a sec. Oh, for goodness, Obi-Wan's gone.
Do you think that?
Quick one.
Do you think he would have turned evil if he'd known that she'd have that lesbian scene in Black Swan? How do you think? Anakin would have took that?
Maybe that's why he went to the dark side. She likes girls more than me.
He found out she's a lesbian.
Yeah, his journey to the dark side would be complete. Faster.
Clearly he's a homophobe.
Probably. I bet somebody somewhere out there has made that up. It is funny how some people do that. I still remember when one of the talkbacks from the last movie Outpost, somebody was talking about June, and just somebody said, "Oh, June's really homophobic," and I was really sort of, "Is it?" I hadn't seen that at all in there, and it's just funny how some people have just got the agenda of, "I'm going to watch this film, and somehow it's going to offend me because of the homophobia in it."
I mean, they could come here and be offended by homophobia if they really wanted to.
They've actually got cause here.
That's right. Yeah. And we don't dress it up in a lot of subtlety. We're right there with it.
That's right, yeah. Deep and hitting meaning. Yeah. Absolutely. And so let's go on then to Revenge of the Sith. Because obviously that was the sort of huge epic conclusion of what we thought was going to be the last of the Star Wars movies. I know Stark on the website said that he was there at the same day as me, funny enough, in May of 2005, where it was the premiere in London, Leicester Square. And they showed episodes 4, 5, and 6, and then 1, 2, and 3 was introduced by Rick McCallum, George Lucas, Ian McDiarmid and Hayden Christensen, and we watched, and I remember me and my mate sat there thinking, this is the last time we're going to watch a new Star Wars film. And out of the three of
you fool,
if only that were true. But then with those, like I say, out of the three movies, that is the better of the three. I can't still say it's like a great movie, because watching it again, the whole fight sequence between Anakin and Obi-Wan is brilliantly done. But then I keep in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, and they've brought back Vader to fight Obi-Wan in the new Obi-Wan series, so that's kind of.
I don't know. I mean, I hate them all. I don't like them. I really don't. I don't go back and try to watch them. But I did watch them recently. Not for this, but fairly recently. And I don't know. I was more invested in Phantom Menace, or just wasn't falling asleep. Revenge of the Sith bores the shit out of me. And Attack of the Clones I think Attack of the Clones is clearly the worst. But I don't think Revenge of the Sith is much better. It has the same nonsense. It has the same... And anything that you want, like, oh, well, here's a moment I've been waiting for, it's just completely wrecked. Like Darth Vader pulling off the bed like Frankenstein and screaming no. It's like you finally get to see Darth Vader, and they fuck that up. Nothing makes sense. The execution of the fight scenes is terrible. The Obi-Wan and Anakin fight goes on for 45 fucking minutes. And... I'm just and everything is shot so boring there. I'm Look, I'm not trying to say that Phantom Menace is good.
Wait a minute.
I'm just saying.
Wait a minute. It's got at least one good part. It's got the part where he goes there and kills all the kids. That's pretty good.
You don't actually get to see
Except
him
you
kill
don't
the
see
kids.
anything. It cuts away.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
All you see is one kid go, oh, he turned on his lightsaber. Is this to help us see? Thank you, Master Anakin. And then they cut.
Talking about stupid parodies ruining everything. That is still the funniest thing in the world is the robot chicken when he goes in. Right, everybody line up. You're going to get a present. Mr. Skywalker, can my present just be a hug?
You can do this. You can do this.
So funny. It is so funny.
I like the go to your happy place. He's like in a field of sunflowers. He's cutting them all up.
Yeah.
Gets home. It's like, I put some flowers in the vase. You hear her go, oh my God.
Again, funny enough, coming back to the whole love story of that, the whole thing that Anakin and Padme are not supposed to be falling in love. So we're going to send them to the most romantic places that we can find in the galaxy, a beautiful lake house, a field of wild flowers with a waterfall in the background.
There's another thing. Okay, Attack of the Clones, the love story doesn't make sense. But everybody complains about Anakin's dialogue. Padme's dialogue ain't that bad. It's not that bad. She's kind of reacting. It's like, we can't do this, and she's and she does it. She doesn't have this. Revenge of the Sith, when they're both talking to each other, when they're finally in love, both their dialogue is absolute shit.
You are so beautiful. Oh wow! I mean, who wrote that?
I love you more. No, I love you more. Oh God! I'm Shawshank in the. It is worse. I think Revenge of the Sith gets more credit than it deserves. I don't think it's any better than Attack of the Clones. I think Phantom Menace is actually this is all relatively speaking, guys. I think Phantom Menace is the strongest of the three.
Really?
Of the three. As a movie,
it
sucks. Okay?
No.
I'm just saying it's easier to get engaged in the Phantom Menace in a lot of ways. I hate them all. I just hate it the least for whatever reason. I think
it's weird.
I think
for me,
it just sucks.
No, see, I think out of the three of them, for me, if I had to sort of like pick them, like you say, they're all very close. But Revenge of the Sith is, I think, the better of the two. Phantom Menace is in the middle, and then Attack of the Clones is the worst one.
Phantom Menace, you've got real film. You got a lot of real sets, or at least sets that get extended upon, but they're actually there. You get a much better fight scene at the end that makes more sense and doesn't take 7 hours. Everybody likes that. That's one of the best fight scenes. It's got problems. Why are you Anakining on me? Don't go full Anakin.
You never go full Anakin.
Don't go full Anakin.
Right. With it, the fight it starts off quite well, but as it goes on, at the beginning of the movie, they use force speed against the droidicas when they turn up. And so the whole door thing opening up and everything else was just clearly to kill off Qui-Gon and get Obi-Wan angry. And, that because he could have quite easily made it there.
Keep in mind, look, I'd rather watch the Return of the Jedi fight. Quite frankly, when the deep voices are playing and he's lost it and they're going behind the thing and they're all in darkness and it's just the two blades and there's hardly any choreography. That is far better. It's far more emotional. We're talking in very relative terms here, okay, guys? Very relative.
I know,
but I'm sorry. The finish of that fight and the enjoyment of that fight is a lot better than Anakin. I got the high ground. Fuck you. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, get out of here with that shit.
Funny enough, watching that again, if they just took out the line, I have the high ground, that would have worked. But it's in some respects, yes, it is too long. There are moments where the two of them are just literally waving their lightsabers around at each other for like a good 5 or 6 seconds.
On ropes, they're just whacking each other as they go by. I mean, what is going on? Stop.
What was I saying with that? No, but in the Phantom Menace, that fight sequence, as it goes on, it gets more posturing. So that there's a whole bit where he does Darth Maul does a backflip, and then they jump, and you can literally see them going.
Yeah.
like jumping into shot, which they've obviously not just done a somersault on.
Like there's a little tiny bit more that's happening in that fight. It's kind of showing that it takes two of these guys to take down one. As soon as we go back to that rule of twos, as soon as his double-sided lightsaber gets cut in half, then Maul's on the ropes, right? He needs the two, and all that, and then it shows the difference between Qui-Gon, who sits and meditates, whereas Obi-Wan is still young and energetic. I mean, it's just like these little tiny moments. I know it sounds like I'm trying to defend Phantom Menace as a good movie. I'm not. I'm trying to defend it in terms of the other two. That's it. Don't mistake this as like, oh, the Phantom Menace is an underrated masterpiece. No. But it's shorter. It gets to the point. It feels more like a movie, and there's just it's paced slightly better. I just get so bored in Revenge of the Sith.
You say though about you'd rather watch the Jedi fight again. Obi-Wan is then obviously peed off because his master's just been killed and he's angry. But then this anger
goes right in the choreographed. Yeah, I agree.
Whereas, like I say, I always love the fact that Luke just lost it. That, like you say, there was no coordination or anything else. It was just, I'm going to wail on him until he's down.
Yeah, but I'm not comparing Phantom Menace to the Return of the Jedi fight. I'm comparing Phantom Menace to the Revenge of the Sith fight, which is nothing but choreography.
Okay. Okay.
And goes on way too long and doesn't get to the point. And then ends much, much worse than Obi-Wan cutting the guy in half. And then holding Qui-Gon in his arms and deciding to train Anakin. I mean, it just... in the context of this shit story that they put together that didn't turn out very well, it works better. The Revenge of the Sith fight, it's like all they needed to do was finish in that control room and then go outside, and then that was it. They didn't need to do jumping on the lava and the droids and the boats and then the thing falling over and swinging back. All of that needed to go away. Should have just figured out how to just. They both explode at the beginning with a flurry of activity, and you can see the emotion, and then it just all that emotion drains away because it goes on too long.
Yeah, they don't show the coffee break in between it, do they?
Well, there was a coffee break in the Phantom Menace one. You're making my point, man.
Oh yeah, I suppose. Well, yeah, a completely ridiculously stupid coffee break. Yeah,
but it gave it some pacing, and it gave you a chance to catch your breath, and it gave it some context within that fight. That helps. Again, all of this is like, trying to compare one turd to another turd. I get it. But
it's comparing a cat turd to cat sick,
I'm just saying, I think the Phantom Menace felt more like an actual movie than the other two do, which feels like somebody filmed it in his garage with some green screen most of the time. And is boring as fuck. The only good scene in Revenge of the Sith, in my opinion, is when Palpatine is talking to Anakin.
Yeah.
And manipulating him. That is a great scene. I'll give it that.
Ian McDiarmid is fantastic at it.
He clearly loves that role. He's having a good time. He doesn't give a fuck. I mean, why does Yoda give up at the end? He just gives up.
Oh, I know.
Why?
Oh, sorry, I've just completely messed up the entire galaxy, so I'm just going to go and hide on Dagobah.
I'm just going to go and hide because that's where I have to be by the fifth movie.
Yeah.
That was the only reason he stopped. That doesn't make any sense at all.
But you say about the Phantom Menace being that good. The problem with the Phantom Menace is the middle part of it.
Not as bad. Don't put words in my mouth.
Not as bad. You love the Phantom Menace more than anything else in the world.
Oh, you fuck.
There's a quote for the end.
God damn it.
But with it, the middle part of the movie is all like political and everything else. And I mean, he was trying to make a kid's movie, and yet you're thinking, yeah, because everybody knows a kid's favorite film is All the President's Men, as a political thriller. Kids love that.
What are you talking about? I love that movie.
All right, any normal kid.
Redford and Hoffman, they were bringing their A game in that one.
But again, in another sort of converse way, that the whole end battle sequence, I remember Lucas saying that he wanted Jar Jar to have this like Buster Keaton quality to him. And you're thinking, that's great, George, if you're making a Buster Keaton movie, but you're not. You're making a Star Wars movie with an epic battle, and Jar Jar is just, I mean, even the Ewoks, at least with the Ewoks, you actually felt bad for them when some of them were dying. There were a couple of humorous moments, but you kind of felt bad for these poor little things that were dying, whereas the Gungans, you would just, Jar Jar was just...
You're rooting for the droids.
Yeah, that's right. Come on, he's right there. Kill him. And again, another massive point about this is, who builds a droid army of like millions of droids and has one control ship up in space controlling it? Oh, what happens if they blow the ship up? Yeah, we're screwed, I suppose. Maybe we should put something a little chip.
You know what's the worst? You know what's the worst part about that? Joss Whedon and Avengers thought, that's a hell of an idea.
Yeah, that's very true.
Blow up the ship, they'll all die. They're not even robots. They just die. Why? Because. Okay.
They just do. The whole opening of the Phantom Menace as well. The bit where he says, "Oh, we need to kill them," and so they use a gas which you can see. And again, because I think somebody made the point. Have you ever heard of carbon monoxide? It's completely odorless,
colorless.
And it would kill people.
You could get rid of a hooker really quick. I mean, so I've heard. Yeah, that's a Plinkett. A Plinkett went over all of this, and I mean, I don't disagree with any of it. I'm just saying that when people bring this stuff up in Phantom Menace, okay, but you could say that even more so in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. They all are nonsense when it comes to these plot points, or they forget things, or that kind of stuff. They all have that problem.
Funny enough, to me, I think that the Revenge of the Sith has got less of them than the other two.
Oh, I disagree.
There you go. That's what we can talk about next week.
Why are they... Okay, for one, at what point did gravity become relative to ship position?
Oh, yeah.
Where did that come from? If that was the case, how come the people on the Millennium Falcon weren't hitting the ceiling every time Han did one of these, right?
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any sense. Then it has to land on a runway in a world where everybody does vertical takeoff and landings. Why do they have a runway? What is this? So I mean, and then they get up there and he's all evil, saying, "Yeah, you need to kill him. You need to kill Count Dooku." And Count Dooku is just standing there. It's like, hey, wait, what? He doesn't say a word. It's like, wait a minute, Master. Wait, hey, he's lying to you.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't cut off my head, okay? I didn't know that this shit was going to happen. No, he just sits there and takes it. I mean,
he put me up to this.
I'd be talking I'd be singing like a canary if it were me. And I'm like going, and Anakin doesn't, nothing. Like there's a one point, and I think again I'm gonna keep referencing Plinkett because he did a masterful job. But there's a point where they're like on the, they're having a conference call, right, going over the war plan, right, and then one guy says, "What about the attack of the Wookiees?" They're like, "Oh yeah, shit, yeah, that's right. The Wookiees are getting attacked. We better do something about that." He's like, "If you want to see a war run by disorganized hippies, here you go." And I'm like, I mean, all of the movies have this, okay, to a greater or lesser extent. You can point them out that the nonsense happens. Yes, Phantom Menace. What? We're going to go on separate ships, and then we're going to land on the other side of the goddamn planet to invade the Naboo. Why? What
happened to Obi-Wan? I haven't seen him for days. Don't know.
Yeah. It's in the middle of the Earth's core, apparently. I agree. Every one of the movies has these. So I can pick them out. You can pick them up. We can all pick them out. So then you start looking at other things. And I start looking at, am I halfway engaged? And do I like the look of the movie better? I like the look of Phantom Menace better than the digital, clean, ultra clean nonsense of Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith.
See, again, that's so weird because to me, I think that Phantom Menace is the one that looks the worst.
Maybe it's because it's filmed on film and it has a little more grittiness and it feels it definitely looks different than the other two. Would you say that?
It's weird that you say though that because it was filmed on film, because obviously it was filmed on film.
Tapping out. He's like, fuck these guys.
you say it was filmed on film, but then because of the digital compositing that went on it, there are bits when like you can see Jar Jar's feet don't fit the ground and that kind of thing. And I think to me that's why it looks no. But what I'm saying is if it was done digitally, it may have looked actually, even if it was too clean, a little better than putting digital effects onto film.
Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of, to me, that's kind of like the Stormtrooper bangs his head syndrome. It's kind of like the imperfections make it feel a little bit more organic, if that makes sense. And I think that's why it feels a little bit more like an actual film to me. There's very little of the two guys walking, somebody sits on a couch. I don't think that ever happens in this movie. They actually interact with each other in different sceneries and different settings. They're in the cockpit. They're on the ground. They're in Tatooine. They're on a pit stop for the what do you call it, the pod racers. They're in a jungle, designing out their plans. It's never just they're in a hall. They're not a blue screen set walking, and so it feels a little bit more organic and dynamic. Again, I know we're arguing about which turd was polished the best, but it's still, it just feels slightly. I mean, the scale. We're grading on a hell of a curve here, guys. So, but if I had to pick one that actually is okay, that I can stomach watching, it's probably The Phantom Menace. I hate to say it. I never thought I'd say that before, but I just think that's how bad the other two are.
Not to completely destroy and blow your argument out of the water, but Eggy has just said that I'm with Yoda. Menace is the best of the bunch. So that's just won my argument. He's not here to defend himself, so I can say what I like.
I guess you Brits don't stick together. Not when it comes to something important like Star Wars.
Oh, actually, hang on a minute. No, I don't.
All three of them are unwatchable. You guys just haven't realized that yet.
No, you are correct. They're
not.
They're very tough to watch. We are trying to find a tiny glimmer of diamond dust in this shit pile, okay? And it's very difficult.
Yeah, it is. So, I mean, right, I do feel bad because we've left Sean quite out of this. So, Sean, what are your takes?
Tapped out at one point, like, fuck these guys.
What's your take on them, Sean?
They commit the worst crime of all. They bore me to death. I don't like them. They're boring as hell.
But I mean, how would you feel or rate the original trilogy then?
It's. Oh, you guys will get too mad.
It's not your kind of. It's no. It's not your type of movie, is it? There's no rapes in it. For starters.
They don't bore me. Like if they're on TV.
We don't know what that droid did to Leia.
Yeah. I mean, if they're on and nothing else is on, I can watch them at any point that I happen to. If it's on, it's like nothing else on. I can finish them. I don't ever feel the need. I've never been like, oh man, I'd really like to watch Star Wars or Empire again. It's been a long time. I don't care. I guess you could say I'm neutral on them. I don't think they're bad. They're just.
I mean, there's a certain age and mindset when you saw it. If you're like myself and probably like yourself, George, that it became more than just a set of movies. I think the biggest sin that all the prequels or the sequels have done and made them just a set of movies.
Yeah.
They're lifeless to me. They just seem so lifeless and I mean, fake. There's nothing about them that. Yeah, the prequels. That's what I'm talking about.
See, again, like you say, it's all about your upbringing and what you remember and everything else. Like I say, for me, I've always said that one of my first ever memories was watching Star Wars with Dad in our homemade cinema. It was a 400-foot Super 8mm cut-down version. It was only 16 minutes long, and it was the attack on the Death Star. But to me, like I say, it's just the first thing I ever remember. And so I grew up loving it. And I completely understand how, I've often said, some lads at work today were talking about football and stuff, and I kind of wandered over to sort of say hello, and they were talking about who's winning, and I was like, boring, and walked off. But
I can relate to that. Yeah.
If my dad was into football, I'd have been into football, but my dad was into movies.
I don't know. My dad loves sports. Hey, I can't.
Well, you know what I mean. You get the influence.
Yeah, I watched Star Wars when they were coming out too. I saw Empire and Jedi in the theaters, but to me they were just like, it was like, oh, that was neat. And then by months later, I would done.
What would you say then was your favorite film growing up then as a kid?
Oh God, probably. Like what age? Yeah, of course. Like what age? I guess I
don't know. Kind of
The Accused, right?
No,
you love that pinball scene.
Growing up, my favorite movies when I was growing up was
Deliverance,
stuff like Predator and RoboCop and
exactly.
Vietnam War movie.
RoboCop's a perfect movie. So I got a wide range, but Star Wars is kind of this other thing that I don't even know how to explain.
Yeah, I've always said, and most of my friends are like you guys, and in fact, my best friend, he's as passionate about it as you two. And I've always said, and my brother was too. I've always said, like, I've always felt like, what did I miss? Everybody, it's like it had such a huge impact on our generation. And I'm like, and I've always been like, and that's why I have rewatched them occasionally. Is like, what is it that I missed so many years about this that I'm missing out on? That this made such an impact on so many people, but I'm completely,
that's not just you. I mean, funny enough, I've always been the same with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I completely missed the boat on that, and I know some people think it's like the greatest movie of all time, and I've watched it a couple of times, and I just don't get it. Just don't get it.
I like it, but I don't. I've never.
No. What I'm saying is no. But I completely understand how some people think it's the greatest film of all time. Where it's kind of I just missed it, and like you say, with Star Wars, that
The Godfathers, same deal.
Yeah,
you haven't even watched The Godfathers yet.
I tried.
Yeah, well, I guess that's. I would say you had to watch them and then be dismissive before you were like. Because it's like,
I should.
The problem with that
the first time I did it, they were ambient, so I have to try again.
The problem is sometimes you get just in your head that it's just not going to be as good as what everybody else makes it out to be. The problem.
But when I was a kid, it was not like that. Like there was no internet, nobody to talk to.
I think there was three. I think there were three things that perfectly came together with the Star Wars trilogy, especially the first one. That, especially if you're a kid of a certain age or whatever, that made it work. One is that it is a perfect hero story journey. So that touches something deep culturally, emotionally in the back part of our lizard brains that just
I was born and raised on a farm, and I'm still waiting to be radicalized by some old religious guy to blow up something. So it could happen any day.
It could.
Timothy McVeigh.
But it definitely was a perfect hero's journey. Secondly, if you have a sci-fi bent to your things that you like to watch, it hit that well. And third, it was probably the first movie that ever exceeded our imaginations. Because when there were so many things I watched, and you could see the seams, you could see the problems, you could see where technology or whatever just couldn't match what was in your imagination. But Star Wars did. Star Wars was the first one that did.
The only exception to that, unfortunately, was like 2001, which is not a kid's film.
Not a kid's film.
You wouldn't sit down and watch that when you're 8 years old and go, "Oh, well, this is great."
And certainly by the time by the time Star Wars was in the theaters, you weren't seeing 2001 in the theaters. It was out, it was gone. Yeah. So
no, but what I mean is that film had the technicalities to show what could be done, but it wasn't a sci-fi epic adventure. It was a very deep and meaningful and like I say, they're both sort of science fiction movies, but they're completely chalk and cheese that you like say an 8-year-old would not enjoy 2001.
Sure. But as an 8-year-old, you got, especially if you're into sci-fi, it hit that button hit the hero's journey button that still resonates even as you get older. So obviously there's a lot of deep stuff going on in the original Star Wars that I think people take for granted. And from a special effects, I mean, it was such an incredible breakthrough. There was a reason it made $300 million in 1977, and it blew out records that weren't even close at that time.
It is an achievement in special effects, no doubt about it.
It wasn't just a
when
special effects movie is wonderful, but Star Wars was more than that. There's no doubt.
But even at the time when somebody said special effects in movies, that was the first movie that would pop into my head.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And again, you're right, not taken away from that, but it didn't make $300 million on special effects alone.
No, I'm not saying it
it touched a chord. I don't think anybody that was alive at that time kind of will remember that it was a cultural earthquake. There wasn't anybody that wasn't talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Old, even your grandma talked about it.
My grandma did very much like Star Wars.
Everybody, from old to young, you talked about it in school. Everybody wore shirts. I mean, they made a disco song. It was everywhere. People don't know what saturation is until they lived during that time.
Yeah.
Madlink says he recently watched Dog Day Afternoon and he liked it.
I guess
he just now caught up with the rest of the world.
I only watched it.
I don't know.
Flash Gordon. He says Flash Gordon was Star Wars is just a bigger budget version of Flash Gordon.
No,
there's an argument
about the original Flash Gordons. I don't think he's talking about Flash Gordon. You know, the campy Sam Jones version.
Maybe he is.
Well, that one was trying to rip off Star Wars in its own way, or at least that's what Dino wanted. And he didn't exactly get that, but it's become a very appreciated movie in the past 40 years.
I don't know. Maybe a little bit more appreciated than it should be, but it's not a bad movie.
Oh, I love it for what it is.
Yeah, it's fine for what it is, but it's
also
not.
I like Ornella Moody's costumes in most of it.
Oh, lovely. Right.
What about Barbarella? That's another sci-fi masterpiece.
You know, I finally watched that. I'm like going, because I remember like as I was growing up, there would be movies where people like geeks or whatever would have Barbarella posters on their wall, right? And it seemed like one of those. It's like I'd really like to see that because it looked kind of the poster and everything looked kind of cool. Then when I actually watched it, I was like, "This sucks." This is garbage.
I was the same.
Never mind the bordering on pure porno in parts of it almost.
You get one full frontal of Jane Fonda in her prime, and the rest of it is like, this is terrible.
It's just the Star Wars space battle scenes still look good. Full disclosure, I didn't watch the full stream. Well, why are you commenting here? You might have already talked about this. I didn't mean in timeline wise. Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of been ruined by not ruined because I think actually the space battle at the end has been slightly improved with the special editions.
I think it's been improved a lot. That's the other thing. We talk about the special edition, how much it sucks. It's like, well, there are moments that are mystifying that they shouldn't do. But there's other things, like you're cleaning up all the optical compositing.
The bit the
Rancor
pit. The Rancor pit in particular looks so much better that they fixed that. Yeah.
And so there's a lot of things that I'm very happy with. I don't mind the new song at the end. I didn't have anything against Lapti Nek, the Ewok song when they were singing, but the new song, it's a new piece of John Williams music. I'm good. I thought it worked.
I'd love to shoot one of those Ewoks. I mean, would that not be fun to
go? You're not talking about you're not talking about though in a love scene with Leia, are you? You're talking about actually shooting them.
I mean, take a rifle, go into indoor, and then picking them out of trees is what I'm talking about.
Do you have an Ewok gun?
Oh, I've got a gun for everything, my friend.
This is my new Ewok gun.
If I just angled the camera a little bit this way, you guys would be shocked at what is over in this corner.
and then he picks it up and it's actually loaded with an actual Ewok. Bang!
Again, have you seen that one from Robot Chicken where the guy takes the speeder bike and accidentally runs over an Ewok?
Oh,
and this Ewok's
so
screaming
funny.
and crying, and he's going, "Look, man, I know it hurts, but keep it to yourself." And then he ends up like beating it to death, and he's got blood everywhere, and he's beaten to death. And he's going, "Oh man, oh, like this." And then he turns around, and all these Ewoks are just watching him.
I
really
cried
hits
the
the
first
spot.
time I watched that one. It
Did
was
you really?
so dark. It was so
It
no, in
so
laughing,
funny.
not because I was.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were really touched.
No. Oh no!
What did you
it's
think
fun.
about?
you
What
are
did you think about the ending of Old Yeller? I bet you thought that was a laugh right, didn't you?
You know, dog needed to go.
I was funny enough that people keep talking about like Marley and Me. Is it Marley and Me, the one with the dog?
Yeah.
And I watched that, and all the way through, when the dog died, I thought, finally, that thing was a pain in the ass. It was just nothing but trouble. Old Yeller, I watched, and I was a little tearful because I only watched it, I think last year, and I was a little tearful because I actually thought, and it was a good dog. Whereas Marley and Me, it was just I would have strangled it by that point at some point in the film. That's how heartless I am.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to love the Ewoks. Return of the Jedi. I don't know if you know this. There's a Star Wars drinking game, and they one of the things like you drink if Leia is wearing completely covered from head to toe. Drink twice if she's wearing gloves. Drink 3 times if she's almost totally nude. One of the things is drink when a single Ewok dies, and the camera lingers longer than when the Death Star explodes, killing millions of people. 13 seconds. Count them.
But the Ewoks are cute. We don't know what stormtroopers look like under their helmets. They might all be ugly.
I remember there being some TV movies or something that had the Ewoks in them.
Ewok Adventure and the Caravan of Courage.
Of Courage, yeah. They are terrible. I mean,
you got to admit
movies,
the sequel is ballsy. The first movie is all about the brother and the sister teaming up with the Ewoks to rescue their parents, and they finally get back together as a family. In the sequel, a marauding band comes over and murders the entire family except for the little sister within the first 5 minutes of the film.
That's pretty based.
Wow.
I gotta go. Yeah.
We're not playing around here, are we?
And yeah, it was still quite cute, a movie sort of thing, even though that happens in the first 5 minutes. Oh man, I haven't seen that for a long time. I'll tell you what else we haven't mentioned. Somebody mentioned it earlier on the chat. Is with the prequels. I mean, let's talk. I was
going to say that's when David Fincher got the idea for Alien 3. George Lucas, he was onto something.
But let's talk about Rogue One and Solo.
No, let's not.
Because Solo, I didn't think was as bad as it was going to be. I mean, again, far from.
Okay, let me ask you, George. Is Solo better than any of the prequels? I gotta say yes.
Do you know what? I would still say Attack of the Clones is still worse than Solo. If I had to watch,
I think they're all worse than Solo.
Yeah, that's what he said. You just said yeah without realizing you agreed with him. What do you mean? It's
no. I'm just trying to think where I would put it because
he just picked one as worse than Solo.
I mean,
I'm saying all three are worse than Solo.
To be fair, actually, I think if I had the choice of watching like the 4 of them, then yeah, I probably would pick Solo to watch again because I think it's
much more accessible.
Yeah,
it makes more sense.
Woody Harrelson is brilliant in it.
It's not. It's a nice little heist movie. It's got some problems and it's a bit slow and it too much of. Oh, what's your name? I don't have a name. Well, we'll call you Han Solo. Oh, fuck me. So here's how he got his gun. Oh, shut up.
No friends. No friends. That's what we're going to call you.
What's your name? Chewbacca? Well, we're going to have to come up with a name because I can't use that. Shut up!
You know, that you guys very rarely mention those 2 movies to the point that they must not be something because I forget they even exist, and you guys never refer to them when you're talking about Star Wars. You talk about the sequel movies that you hate more than you've ever mentioned those 2.
Yeah, they don't. You got a point. They don't
Star
register
Wars movies.
Yeah, they don't register really though. That is a point. Partly because they don't have any. It's not anything to do with the main Skywalker saga for the most part.
But also, it is like with Rogue One. It was kind of, again, you're making a movie where you know what's going to happen at the end. So I wasn't really that invested in the characters.
George, it's the journey, not the ending.
Well, no, but that's what I mean. Is if you know what the ending is, though, then it's not the journey, is it? If you know they're going to die at the end, then why get in? It's like why?
You just don't get it, man.
Well,
you just don't get it, man.
Do you like Rogue One? Because I really wasn't expecting everybody to just die at the end.
But we knew that was going to happen.
No, I didn't know that those rebels might have gone on and done other things elsewhere in the rebellion. I never got the feeling that, because if it's all based on the opening crawl of Star Wars, you say, okay, rebels have stolen plans from the Death Star and beamed them over. That's all you get, right? So I never got the idea, and they died horribly. I didn't expect.
How do
them
they
all.
die in the movie? How do they die in the movie?
They're just all on the planet, and it gets blown up by the Death Star.
Oh, well, that's kind of lame.
Well, many of them died prior to that, screaming. Instead of just waiting for the Death Star. Just the last two got wiped out by the Death Star much more painlessly.
Maddox has just said that Kyle Katarn is the one who stole the Deathbound Stars. And as I remember, that was in the game...
Dark Forces?
Yeah, one of them. And yeah, that's true. But yeah, he's not mentioned in Rogue One at all.
No, he's no longer canon. They wiped their ass with the expanded universe. You know that.
And again, just why do that? What if you've got a whole, you wouldn't do that with history. You wouldn't.
Because it probably would cost more to use those problems.
Have you looked at a public school lately? I
was just going to say, see, this is how bad and awful my thoughts are. That's kind of like saying that the what do you call it? The bloody hell, brain.
This is what happens when you talk about Star Wars for too long.
Your brain starts to rot.
I can hear the Windows sound. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, that's right. Right, I got it now. That's kind of like saying that the Holocaust never happened.
Wow, you couldn't think of.
I
kept thinking it was called the apocalypse, but that's
he was like, "What is that thing called that everybody always exaggerates about?"
If anybody is listening from YouTube, we do believe the Holocaust happened. And that is just a joke that we are trying for effect.
Comment. I was just saying that, like I say, that you wouldn't erase that from history, though. And so, like I say, why change the canon of Star Wars? Is exactly the same thing.
Yeah, that George Lucas compares Disney not using some comic books after a movie is equal to as the Holocaust.
I'd say your perspective and your ability to keep things in
reality.
In reality, I think you've got it spot on there, George.
You got a real handle. You got a real handle on reality, George.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
2 World Wars and 1 World Cup, dude. Dude. That old English chestnut of a song. Right, so no, yeah, obviously that was quite a bad example, but that's just the way my brain works.
Master of understatement, the English right there.
No, it's just hanging around with Sean too much. That's what it is.
That's probably true.
I don't know the Star Wars. When you say the expanded universe canon, I mean, I don't know what they should have kept and what they shouldn't have. There was some shit in that expanded universe. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there was some really bad stuff in there. There was some good stuff, but it had sprawled out. I mean, if you were gonna try to make anything new, I mean, you're talking these $150-200 million movies. You're gonna try to slide into this ridiculous Bible of canon beyond the movies and the TV shows. But then, I can kind of understand it.
To a point, though, the canon made sense and everything was kind of, I don't want to say pre-approved, but approved by Lucas so that it kind of all fitted in.
Is this going to fit with Wilford Brimley's character in Caravan of Courage? Oh, Jesus Christ. Right, fuck. Write this out right there. They never would have got the movie off the ground. You know what? Now I'm on board. They should have kept the canon. They never would have got a movie on board, and we wouldn't have these fucking discussions.
They didn't want to pay the original authors and whatever. That's the only reason they did it.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the only reason. It's that
you're right.
Simple as.
Well, I think part of it was they didn't want to try to figure out how to fit it in. That'd have been a lot of work. And we know these people are lazy people.
I can imagine. I think it was Timothy Zahn who wrote the Thrawn trilogy, which is a good trilogy and one of the rare books I've read. It was a decent trilogy, but I can imagine Disney approaching him saying, "Right, how much do you want for us to buy the Thrawn trilogy so that we can make them into films?" And Timothy Zahn turning around and saying, "Actually, to be fair, you can just make a small donation to a school or something, maybe $50." And Disney going, "No, screw it, we'll do our own." No.
Well, they had to push
if I would love to see them. So. I would love to see a properly adapted, and it could do it in computer animation just fine. I'd be fine with that. But a properly adapted Zahn trilogy, I think that would be great.
Yeah, it would be. Like I say,
those are my
such
sequels.
A great.
You guys are veering off into super dork territory here. I just wanted to let you know before you
knew what this was. You don't get a safe word.
Yeah, your safe word is "I love Star Wars." He'll never say it.
I know that's the old bait and switch. You'd be like, "Oh, well, good. We'll go another hour."
So yeah, we've kind of discussed the fact that the prequels aren't. I still know better, but I mean, when you compare them to the sequel trilogy, they are master pieces of work, because the sequel trilogy is just awful, which will be discussed next week for 2 hours with Sean, our host.
I've never seen them.
Oh, you're so lucky.
You never seen the sequels?
I've never watched the 3 new ones.
Oh, gosh. Envious.
You could have not. You guys could have not watched them yourselves.
No, but I had to give them a chance. I had to give it a chance.
I have a problem. Okay. We talk about it in group, and hopefully I will get past this one day.
I was sat in the cinema going, "She rubs the lotion on the skin." Yeah. So I'll tell you what, next week then, Sean, would you like to pick a topic for us to talk about next week?
Yes, I think we tortured you enough.
Anything other than this or Star Trek. Anything. Literally anything. You can talk about the size of my mom's underwear if you want. Just no more Star Wars for a while, please.
Seems like a hot topic. Is that where she buys them, by the way?
Mm-hmm. She's very trendy. Oh, you wanted to do heavy metal, so
heavy metal.
Yeah, we can do that. George wanted to do that, I guess, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we mentioned
heavy metal.
What do you guys? What do you guys think? Heavy metal. Heavy metal. We'll do heavy metal.
Yeah. Something else what do you think?
I am going to try to go watch. I might try to go watch tonight. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
Oh, I do.
Getting good reviews. A lot of people.
It's not out over here. Damn it.
I like Michelle Yeoh a lot.
Me too.
And so I thought that might be fun, but I don't know. Is there anything else?
I still want to see The Northman, which I haven't.
Dean watched it and said it's terrible.
Really?
Yeah. He said it was absolutely boring and terrible, but I don't know.
I'm expecting it to be slow and.
Well, he said it had a little bit of wokeness in it too. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They didn't portray all the Vikings as white, did they?
Well, he said there's some bit about slavery, like some, commentary on slavery or something there shoved in at the end. Apparently it's very, out of place too, I don't.
That's disappointing.
I had high hopes for it too, because I was like, oh, I want to watch it. And he watched it first. He's like, nah. Because I even, I gave him an invitation to write a review of it for the website. And he was like, I don't know if I can finish it. When he was watching, he's like, I don't know if I can finish this crap.
And at the end, they all lived happily ever after.
Yeah.
They all sailed away off into the sunset. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, that was Lord of the Rings. Sorry.
Also covered in blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, I guess. Oh, shit, guys, we haven't talked about the best prequel of all, the Star Wars Christmas special. Now, I'd like to talk about the guys. Where are you going, guys? I guess I'll just. All right. Well, thanks for watching the stream. We will see you next week. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. You can reach us at contact us at lastmovieoutpost.com and visit the website lastmovieoutpost.com. Guys? Oh.